little chance.
Oh,
You just got a really broken on your own neck.
no, I didn't know.
Yeah, you did.
You want to know what I'm gonna do?
You telling me to leave?
No.
That's what you just did.
Only time will tell if what I did was enough.
This does not even deserve a captain's log introduction, because this is dead serious.
How's it going, everybody? You know, we got a crazy episode for you guys today. The lolcow universe has absolutely went insane if you really think about it the last couple of weeks. You know, there was like a small little dip in quality for a moment, but all of a sudden it just comes back roaring. You got like Nova Online who's trying to start an OF, and Nova Online, please, never start the OF. That's just not your career. Neither is TikTok, but there's gotta be something out there for you. I mean, I think you already found it. Very similar to who we're talking about today, Cyraxx, but that's not a job you like. And then we got Tophiachu, who does the unthinkable. You can go watch my last video if you want to hear more about that. But then we have Cyraxx, guys, who's absolutely changed his life 100%. You know, Cyraxx is a good man now. He woke up one day, he decided to brush his teeth, he brushed his hair, he took a shower, then he walked out of his room, he didn't argue with his parents, and he said, you know what, I'm gonna go get a job today. And he's been working 12 hours about 5 days a week ever since. And I'm sorry to say, guys, if anyone thought that was true, I'm just messing with you. That absolutely didn't happen. Cyraxx isn't capable of it. He's an absolute menace, and that's all he's able to do is cause destruction wherever he goes. It just basically follows him. And Cyraxx himself, you know, isn't capable of much, but for some reason, somehow, it just completely follows him. But this week, Cyraxx wants you to think he's a changed man. He hasn't done a bad thing in forever, he says. You know, please forget just like a month ago when he was gonna call child services on one of his girlfriend's kids because, well, he was pretty upset at his girlfriend for dumping him, and that's just the obvious solution to handle that situation. But no, today, Cyraxx wants you to think that all of that is in the past. Now, I know we've heard that 1,000 times, but Cyraxx, he does it a little different today. Just a tad different, enough to make it an actual video. But then, Cyraxx does something that's not unexpected if you know him at all, but we haven't seen it in a long time, and that's basically because Cyraxx can barely get on the internet at all. To be honest with you guys, I have not one clue how he's posting these videos right now. I really don't. Somehow he's able, miraculously, to pull a phone out from somewhere, or just something that has like service that he can post these videos on. Because if you don't know, Cyraxx is having a really rough time with that. Just about every time he gets a console, it like, well, in video terms, it just like mysteriously vanishes into thin air. I mean, it's there physically, but something happens to it and Cyraxx no longer has access to it, and it really ruins his day. Cyraxx has been going off, but we don't get to see it because he really doesn't have anything to post on. And poor Sally, she's just taking the brunt of it all, guys. Right now, Sally is probably at her lowest. You know, you thought before she wasn't having a very good time. Imagine just having Cyraxx tell you about his problems all day. That's what we got to hear when he went on live stream, but we had like a magical button that could just turn him off or go watch something else whenever we feel like it. Sally, she doesn't have that. I mean, I guess an eviction notice, but we all know that's not going to happen at this point. So what does Cyraxx decide to do? Well, Sally comes into his room on his live stream with about 3 people, and he's like, no, Sally, stay out of here. You absolutely can't come in this room, because if you do, you're going to embarrass me in front of all of my friends, my tens of thousands of friends and fans. How could you continue to do this to me, Mom? And Sally, the owner of the house, who knows Cyraxx earns no money, is like, no, you know, Cyraxx, I am tired of this. You're done for. Actually, excuse me, Cyraxx was the one who was threatening to leave, which is just that's a terrible gamble right there, guys. That's like basically calling a bluff with 0 hand in your deck. You're hoping for a miracle that they better believe you, or it's just, what is going to happen if she just like says, leave, go? But that's for later in the video. Right now, let's get into Cyraxx telling you how good of a person he is, and quickly shows you that this is all just false in the coming clips.
I feel like a lot of people have a misconception about me. And I truly feel like a lot of people have been robbed of getting to know the real me. It's not who I wanted to be. I never wanted to be that person that he morphed me into. I never wanted to be that kind of person that lashed out and said stuff out of pocket. I don't think a lot of people really understand that when I said those things, I was not in a very good state of mind. I was dealing with so much in my life, you know, to everybody that we could. Like, we were all reaching out, you know, we were reaching out to police, to FBI, to detectives, Homeland Security. Like, we were reaching out to all these people for help. Life got brought up so fast on the internet because people started digging in to me so fast and just really looking into me like, oh, well, let's see this guy's past to see what he did. Like, I don't think anybody really got to know the real me, and I feel like a lot of you guys got robbed of that opportunity to actually get to know me as a person. A lot of you guys never got to see the fun side of me. You know, the side of me that's actually happy, that wants to do good, that wants to, you know, make you guys smile. The me that I used to be before all this.
No, guys, it's not like any of us have been watching for a little bit and don't understand Cyraxx at all. We've been missing it. We've got to read between the lines to truly understand what's going on. When he's lashing out, it's not because he's just an angry little guy who just can't stand to be told something that's true. It's because, you know, when he's faced in these tough situations, he's just got to find a way to get a one-up on somebody. And that's also true, but we also got to remember that's not an excuse, okay? If that's all Cyraxx was known for having some of the best rages on the internet, that would be one thing, and Cyraxx would probably like be a lesser known lolcow. But it's all the bad things that pile up about you, Cyraxx. That's why you constantly have to move on. It's because if you just stay in the past and like try to fight these battles constantly, you know you're gonna lose because you have every time. And think about it. He has nobody to argue on stream with, like, about these points anymore, and still yet, he's just arguing with himself in his head how he can win this battle, and still somehow he comes up with, I've lost, I gotta move on and make a new identity, and maybe people will accept me. And you know what? He stopped wearing the mask too. He should have definitely kept that going. It would have made him a little more mysterious, you know, the Daft Punk of the lolcow universe. Is it Cyraxx? Or is it Cyraxx? Who knows? But at least he's got a different kind of mask on and it's hilarious. And did you guys notice that he completely contradicts himself? He's like, you guys don't really know the true me. You know nothing about me. But at the same time, he's like, and well, they also like discovered everything about my past. I mean, just about every single thing about me is out there on the internet. It's like, well, if everything is out there about you, just about your entire 20s basically and your 30s, like, I'm pretty sure everyone would get a pretty good idea of who Cyraxx is, and it just constantly comes up that you're just not the best guy, Cyraxx.
I fully and truly absolutely loved what I did. I really did. I absolutely enjoyed every second of it. Because back then I was just hanging out with my friends. I was, you know, doing local shows for my music almost every other week. I was, you know, working on a vlog channel that I had at the time. I also started doing a little bit of urban exploration at the time too, because there was a few places that have been since torn down that I decided that I wanted to explore because Summit Lake has so much history behind it that I was like, yo, let me see if there's any really cool places that I can go check out and see, like, whether they're old buildings, old landmarks, you know, doing whatever I could to kind of, you know, have fun with what I was doing. I was watching this video that I came across by this guy named Chilla, who, if you guys have ever played Call of Duty, he actually did the voice character, he did the voiceover for the character Ronin for Call of Duty, which honestly is one of my personal favorite characters to this day. But I was watching one of Toulon's videos where he talked about the Book of Five Rings. And I sat down and I really thought about my situation. And I came up with this thing called the 10 Keys to Zen and a Happier Life. And what I would eventually like to do is turn that into something. You know, put that on like clothing or, you know, what have you. But first, alright, give me 1 minute, guys, I'll be right back. But another thing that I don't seem to, well, not that I don't get it, but one thing that a lot of people don't seem to understand about me personally is that all those times that I lashed out, all those times where I went off and I started screaming, that wasn't me being funny. That wasn't me trying to put on an act. Those screams were genuinely me being pissed off. Me being pissed off at the situation. Me genuinely wanting to get away from all that. Like, when I raged out, I get it, you guys. I get it. You guys find it funny that I rage out. I understand that. And believe me, I get it better than you guys think because, you know, back when I just merely just watched, you know, I would watch people like Angry Gamer Nerd, Angry German Kid, Angry Grandpa. Like, I used to watch that stuff too, so I get it. You know, I understand that mindset of finding it funny when someone gets pissed off, they rage out, they get pissed off, they do something wild and crazy. I get it.
Doesn't it sound like at the beginning of the clip when Cyraxx was explaining what life used to be like for him when it was fun back in the day? Doesn't it kind of sound like Sally was just kicking him out of the house and he was basically just preparing for homelessness? Like, okay, this seems like a good spot over here, you know, not too many people are over here throwing things at me. And you know what? I haven't been kicked out in a few hours. They might let me sleep here. And then he's going over to different corners of Akron, Ohio, pulling out his pots and pans, playing his instruments. Do you remember when he used to do that, guys? You all thought he was just doing that because he was learning how to play it. But no, Cyraxx just didn't have enough money to buy a drum set. He was doing this out of necessity. I think that was also what he was up to right now. You know, if I can get a few quarters here and there, I might be able to go buy like a single McDouble. And if the dude can only eat a Hot Pocket a day, one McDouble a day might just sustain him. Cyraxx might do pretty well, but it's the weather. It's the weather that would probably do him in, you know. Cyraxx, but maybe, you know, the Oblivion remake just came out and I bought that as soon as I seen it. And, you know, the goblins in that game, they do just fine. They wander around wherever they want, you know. They're seen in multiple parts of the map, all different sorts of climates. And I don't know any other goblin lore, so maybe it's 1 in 1. And guys, Sally testing Cyraxx to see if he could be homeless, you know, it might not be a joke. Think about it. Last time this happened, when he could actually go out and do all this stuff, he was on the internet far less. I mean, since then, I mean, he had so many live streams to get on and yell at people, so he had nothing but time to do that. And Sally had him preoccupied up there, so she got a little bit of freedom. We didn't think it was, but imagine having to deal with Cyraxx all day. Now that's what she's doing again. So their relationship has basically boiled down to her just making grunts and noises at Cyraxx. She can't stand him. Like, at this point, I guess the thought of him makes her so upset that she can't even muster the words to say his name. It's just, And Cyraxx, it's so bad, Cyraxx has learned him at this point. He knows 2 grunts means, okay, come get food. 1 grunt means run away and leave. And we're going to see later on that this relationship it's getting pretty bad again because he doesn't even have that much direct troll influence to make him interact with Sally in this kind of way. Besides, like, him screaming at her 24/7 to get him an Xbox right now, which definitely soured things.
I am in that process of getting back to who I used to be before everything. I'm in that process of, you know, healing from, you know, all the bad stuff that I've dealt with. And honestly, that's why I do have a lot of trust issues. It's because of all that. It's not that it's my fault. It's that people kept on tricking me over and over and over and over again. And me being the kind-hearted person that I am, I like to believe, and would like to believe, that there's a shred of decency in everybody. You know, not everybody is bad people. From October of last year up to February of this year has been one of the craziest times of my life. You know, I go from ending up being with somebody that I've known for 13 plus years to being engaged, and then to ultimately losing them, and then ultimately losing that, not only that person, but also being a dad to their son, who I basically helped to raise for their entire life. You know, I had helped my ex, Kira, raise her son his entire life. You know, I basically was there to discipline him when he needed it. I told her if he was doing something bad. You know, I would always make sure that his homework got done. I would always spend time with him, gaming out with him, having fun, playing different racing games with him, you know, drawing with him, playing, you know, silly little family games and stuff, you know. And I enjoyed every minute of it. But unfortunately, fate had other plans. Or more or less, she had other plans. And I don't think you guys really realize how close I was to living my dream and making it a reality. I had hit every mark on the YouTube algorithm count to be able to get monetized. I was so close to making my dream a reality that I was actually excited. But I walked away from that for my ex, Kira. I walked away from that to be a fiance and to be a future husband to her, and to be a dad to her son, Callum, and to be that life partner, to live that normal life that I had longed for since all this craziness started. How many times her son Callum would always ask me, you know, hey, can you upload a new video? Hey, he would always ask me, when are you doing another racing video, Daddy? When are you making another video? When are you doing another horsey video, referring to Red Dead Redemption 2? Whether he reaches out to me when he gets older, that's on him. You know, and I've had this discussion with Callum. Like, for a 5-year-old, he's actually very smart. He's actually a lot smarter than what people think he is. This boy literally skipped a grade, okay? This boy literally went from preschool to straight up first grade. Like, this boy is smart. Like, he's actually very smart, very, very bright. Honestly, one of the smartest kids I've ever met. You know, and I had that conversation with him where I told him, like, look, if anything happens between me and Mommy, just know that when you get older, if you want to reach out to me and contact me, you're more than welcome to. And that I will always be there.
Oh yeah, Cyraxx, he's just a bleeding heart. It's not even like a few months ago, maybe even just a month, he got dumped and he was like, you know what, you know how I'm going to solve this? I'm going to get her child taken away from her. Yep, that's the solution I'm going to go with. Nope, there's nothing better I can think of doing. And like, not kind, that's not a very good thing to do to somebody. And then, alright guys, let's pull a Cyraxx now and just ignore multiple other things of his past. And that's just one thing we could call out and just say, you know what, Cyraxx, probably not a kind person. But then here he goes to say, you know, I just like to think that there's a little bit of kindness in everybody. And wouldn't you, it's a kind of a bad thing for him, right? Because most of everybody he comes into contact with it doesn't end up very well for him. He ends up pretty mad most of the time, but he's also a person that has to take handouts left and right, because what does he refuse to do? Well, we'll get a job. And if he would just do that and get a little bit of money, he wouldn't have to look for the kindness in everybody he meets. He could actually look at somebody and judge them for their character. But besides all that, when Cyraxx said that he helped raise Kara's kid his entire life, that was one of the most frustrating things I've ever heard, because we all know Cyraxx isn't the best at math. I mean, it was 7 years for about 3 years, and somehow, luckily enough, it finally became 8 years, and next year, somehow, it'll probably be 9 years, because Cyraxx still doesn't have a clue what happened in February. It still hasn't dawned on him, but we're going to talk about that a little bit more later in the video. But this kid has barely known Cyraxx for a few months. How would that be his entire life? That's just a few terrible, terrible months for him. I mean, if you're thinking about conscious-wise, about how long he was conscious, I mean, still yet he didn't know you his entire life. And why is it such a big thing for you to know him like that? Most stepdads don't care. Like, okay guys, like imagine you're just hanging out somewhere with like your step parent or something like that, and they're talking to their friend or whatnot, maybe a stranger, and they look over at you. They've been like your step parent for like 2 or 3 years, right? And they say, yes, this has been my daughter for my entire life. You'd be creeped out. Like, I don't know why it's so creepy, but it certainly is. You should really need to stop referring to him like this. And just how are you punishing anybody, Cyraxx, when you're over the phone? Like, remember this, guys. He is over the phone talking when he's saying that he's doing all this, when he's making sure that he's doing his homework. If Kara doesn't answer the phone, Cyraxx has zero contact. Well, he better have had zero contact if Kara wouldn't answer the phone. But apparently they're gaming out with one another, and I don't even know how that's possible when like those two lived in a shelter, Kara and her son. I don't know how you'd get a system in there, and I feel like it'd be incredibly dangerous to have a system in there. But besides all that, another thing that I want to talk on is when Cyraxx is describing doing all this work with him, like, why does it, like, you know, in like imaginary land, like if they were like in contact, why does it sound like Cyraxx was sitting there studying with him, like learning the same topics and getting stumped by him every time? I can just see him both sitting there drawing stick figures with crayons, and Cyraxx has just got his calculator out, pressing random numbers. He's got his protractor and his ruler trying to get it all in place, and it just comes out crappier than the little guys. And he's just sitting there like, man, that dude right there, he's a genius.
You know, I want to be that person that, you know, shows people like, hey, no matter how bad you f*** up in life, there's always a chance to redeem yourself. There's always room for change. There's always room to be a better person. And I want to show that I can be a better person despite all the negative comments, despite all the hatred, despite all the bad shit. You know, I want to show that, you know, I'm not this evil piece of shit human being that people have made me out to be. You know, I want to show that I can actually be that level-headed person. I know and very understandingly know that this journey is not going to be an easy one. It's not going to be an easy task. But one thing that I have learned over all the years of dealing with what I've dealt with is that nothing easy is worth doing. And nothing worth doing is ever easy. And I want to show that progression every day of me doing cover shows, inspiring you guys, hanging out with you guys, doing gameplay videos, bringing back the coffee and chill streams I know a lot of you guys used to like, where I would sit down, I would hang out, I'd grab a cup of coffee in the mornings or in the afternoon, and we'd just sit down, we'd just talk, and we'd have fun. But, you know, hopefully I can get around all this to where I can start making that merch again, you know, and have that kind of stuff for you guys. And who knows, I may even launch some of my artwork into an art book or something, who knows. Because I do definitely want to start releasing my darker artwork as prints, because I do have a lot of dark artwork that I've been working on that I would like to release as prints. Some of them, I would like to definitely, have, say, an art book full of my artwork, put into it and self-published and released through that. I definitely would like to have that happen as well. But like I said, for right now, my main goal is to get to that point. We are not at that point yet. We are at the starting line. I will be doing I will actually be starting a podcast too on the side. I will be starting a podcast too where I dive into the psyche and the psychological aspects of how trolling leads to bad stuff. I will be doing that as well. So I'm definitely excited for that. About everything that has gone on. One thing I find very interesting is that no matter how many times I rise above the hatred, there's always someone there to yank me back down into the dark. And then I rise back up, I get brought back down, I rise back up, I get brought back down, and that cycle just continues. But you know what's funny about that cycle? Is every time they drag me down, I find new and inventive ways to rise back up. If there's one thing I will never be when it comes to that little boy and trying to help him, if there's one thing I will never be, is faithless. Now, for those of you that do support me, and even if you don't, there's one thing that I do find very funny, actually. And actually very hysterical and almost laughable. See, people mistake my infamy. They mistake my fame for infamy and notoriety. They say that I'm notorious and they say that I'm infamous. But the truth is, I'm neither one of those. Granted, did I get known for shit that happened to me? Yeah. I'll admit that. I got known for f***ed up shit that happened to me. And that's not my fault. That is not something I will ever take responsibility for. I will never take responsibility for something that I had no hand in. At the end of the day, you still watch me, regardless. Which shows me one very simple thing. That you guys are all secret fanboys.
That's right, he's going to relaunch by doing the exact same thing we basically started out with. He's going to start doing art, and he's going to be selling merchandise. And you know what? I mean, it's kind of a genius idea by Cyraxx and Cyraxx standards, because I think the only other thing that he's made money on besides streaming, which has been the main source of income, right? And then there was that one time he made a little bit of money off music. I think it might have been 87 cents or something like that. But there was this one time someone bought some merchandise off Cyraxx, even before this all started. So there was this one person in the world who believed in him back then. And with all these eyes on him, there might be a few more. And when it comes to Cyraxx starting a podcast, it never works out for the lolcows. I mean, it's like an interesting idea at first, but it just never goes well. They're never consistent with it, and they never really know what to talk about because, basically their entire life is being a lolcow. I mean, look at Nova Online. All he wants to do is talk about Daniel Larson and King Cobra. Hopefully he starts that back up soon so he can give it another shot, and we get to hear more of Nova's opinion. But then we have Cyraxx over here, who's tried about 5 or 6 podcasts. And when it comes to Cyraxx starting a podcast, I don't care what episode it is, he's going to talk about the same exact thing over and over and over again because he has no other real interests or other things he likes to talk about. It's like basically when Cyraxx is interacting with somebody for the first time, he just likes to give his life story or his version of his life story, so it sounds about all in Cyraxx's favor, and even when he's telling it himself, it doesn't sound good. And then, as you heard him say, that, you know, people will constantly drag him down, but the reality of it is that it's Cyraxx who constantly brings himself down into these spirals. It's not caused by anyone else. I mean, unless it's like went to the certain points that it has gotten to in Cyraxx's life, but I mean, it had to build up to that point. Cyraxx could have left at any moment. He would have just been forgotten about so fast. But he would just keep escalating and escalating and escalating. And that's what he's still doing now. And think about it. Even when Cyraxx doesn't really have access to the internet, no one to like press him on anything, he's still going to get into an argument with Sally, as you're about to watch next. And it's one of the most pathetic arguments I think I've ever heard him get into, because Sally, you can just hear that she's done with this. She doesn't want to talk to Cyraxx anymore. Every time she does, it's either about an Xbox, give me money, solve this problem for me, get me back on the internet, and you know, that's gotta be draining. Like, as I said earlier, you know, she thought it was bad beforehand, but think about it now. I mean, that's all she does is hear from Cyraxx about his problems, and she just tells him to go away, or she's just not grunting at him the new language that they've invented with one another. You know, I used to say Cyraxx was bilingual because he knew just about as much Spanish words as he does English. But now he's trilingual. I don't know if you know 3 languages, what the term is for it, but now he knows Sally's language as well.
You just turn it down. No, I'm not having enough channel. No, I don't have enough. Oh, I can't help it. We're trying to sleep. Oh, chance. You just know, you just
Broke down beyond that.
No, I didn't know.
Yeah, you did.
You want to know what they're doing?
You telling me to leave?
No,
That's what you just did.
no, I'm telling you this because you're going to fight me again. I'm not trying to be disrespectful.
Yes, sir.
Mom, I'm not trying
Go
to.
away.
Mom, I'm not trying to be
Go
disrespectful.
away.
No, I'm going to explain something to you.
You don't need to explain.
Yes, I do. You need to stop. You need to listen to me. I'm trying to explain something to you.
No.
Yes, you do, Mom.
Just
You
go
no,
first.
no. You need to listen to me for once.
You told me to leave
Because they're gonna make of me.
oh well.
No, not oh well. I'm tired of being made of. I'm sick of being
Whatever.
You don't get it, do you, Mom? You really don't fuck that. No, it's not. I don't think that's not it. That's not my fault. No. You think I want to be
Go upstairs and leave me alone.
fine, Lord? I'll leave my shit and do what you fucking want.
That's not what I asked you.
No,
Tone
no,
it down.
no, you don't want me to fucking do it. That's it.
Oh, bullshit.
No, admit it, Mom, you don't want me to do it.
We're not. I just want to turn
Well,
down.
that's what I fucking can't. As much as I wish I could, I can't. I don't.
Just go on. Let's go to sleep. Best way we know how. Go.
You know, I wish you understood my situation.
Go.
You know, whatever. I'll just go in my shit and say, F y'all, and I'll be homeless on your phone. No, that's what you're wanting. Yes, Mom, it is. Yes, Mom, it is. And then, Mom, you don't want me to make the money doing what I love off of YouTube. Why don't you fuck?
Here.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. You say you don't care, but if you didn't care, you wouldn't be sitting there jumping down my throat when I'm trying to use the only setup that I know how.
Sally's mind is probably blown that Cyraxx has found another way to get online. You know, when this was first going down, when he was losing system after system, there was probably like a moment of relief for like, oh, this finally might be over. Like, this might all be real. And she might actually known of what happened in February, because I think I might have cut it out by accident. But in one of the first videos you saw of Cyraxx, at one point in there, Cyraxx mentions, like, you know, things used to be really bad, but up until February, you know, things have kind of eased out since then. I'm not sure why. My main enemy is still in Mexico, and I'm going to find him. It just doesn't make any sense. But anyway, it's Cyraxx. It's not supposed to make any sense. But here Sally is just like, why is he screaming in the middle of the night? She stumbles in there and like, wait, are you on live stream again? He's like, yeah, but listen, get out of my room. And she can't believe it, you know. She knows at this point Cyraxx can't get on the internet, and now he's actually just straight up refusing to work. Because, I mean, he can't make the excuse that he wants to work on the internet anymore. It doesn't work for him. He can't get on the internet, basically. So she's sick of it at this point. She's like, how are you doing this? And Cyraxx doesn't pay bills, hasn't paid bills in years. All he's done is brought chaos to their life. It's like, get out of my room. Get out of here. You know, a man's working. And she's like, no, not anymore, Cyraxx. I'm leaving, and I'm going to think about your status in the household real quick. And he's so hostile anytime he interacts with anybody. How did he think he was going to be a content creator? Anytime someone gave him a little bit of push, it would be an absolute meltdown, whether it be in the comment section or him making 10 or 15 videos on it. Sally's just telling him to be quiet. And at first he's trying to, I guess in like a Cyraxx way, like, listen, I'm trying to be respectful here, but you need to be quiet and leave me alone, Mom. Like, I can't be having this. I'm a professional. And Sally's like, no, Cyraxx, that's not how this is going to work. And it instantly, like, devolves into him just cussing Sally out. And he's wondering, like, at the same time, why this conversation isn't going well for him. Well, Cyraxx, you've already ruined it. She doesn't want anything to do with you. And it's kind of bad when we know their history, when what he's done when Sally was like, no, Cyraxx, you can't go to Kansas. And like he's following her through the house, cussing her out, trying to make her understand his point. And Sally's just like, leave me alone. I don't want to talk to you anymore. And he just can't wrap that around his mind until Ed finally starts yelling at him. And it makes sense why Ed is around nowadays. I mean, he's gotta be. And what 35-year-old man, when he finally decides to move out, is just gonna immediately be homeless? You should probably have some savings or a little bit where you could at least get a motel or something for a week or two while you figure things out. You know, but Cyraxx, he just knows, I'm immediately gonna be homeless. And then how does this argument escalate to, you know what, Mom? I know you don't want me to live my true career, to be a singer, a music producer, and an actor. You know I have the talent to do all of these things. I'm 35 years old. Look at Morgan Freeman. He was like 50 or 40 something when he got his big break and everyone knew who he was. I got time. Sally. Please buy me a PlayStation. I'm gonna be an e-racer as well. Think about how talented I am, and you're just letting it go to waste. But I guess that's enough for me today, guys. First off, thank you all so much for 20,000 subscribers. Just sounds absolutely insane to say. Please join me on Friday. I'm gonna do a live stream in celebration of it. You know, I might be playing Psychonauts, or we'll just be watching whatever's the craziest that's happened this week, or whatever. I don't really know yet. But yeah, thank you guys so much for 20,000 subscribers. Just absolutely insane. I can't believe we're at this point. You know, just more to come. You know, 30,000 will be here soon, and next up is 50K, I guess. But anyways, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, follow the socials down below, comment, and I'll catch you guys next time.